Today, we are about to study quite an important chapter of fiqh, which a lot of the Muslims need and ask about. And this deals with marriage, the rulings of it, what governs it, what makes it valid or invalid, and what follows marriage, such as divorce, custody, allowance, etc., iddah, and so on. So this is quite an important topic that a lot of the Muslims often ask about, and inshallah we will try our level best to explain it and make it easy for Muslims to understand. So the Islamic terminology is known as nikah, and nikah means a marriage contract. And in the Quran, wherever this terminology is used, it is referring to the marriage contract, except in one location, it refers to intercourse. And the marriage or the contract means, or the nikah means, a contract that permits an intimate sexual relationship between the man and wife in a legitimate way. So all contracts usually have something that they permit. A trade contract or a selling contract allows me to utilize the item that I had bought and to use it in means that are allowed for me to do so. A leasing contract, when I let a house or an apartment, it allows me to utilize the benefits of that property. So what is the marriage contract all about? It's a very thick and strong bond, as Allah described it in the Quran, between a man and a woman, which entitles both of them to enjoy one another in an intimate way that it is not possible except through marriage. Islam says that you get the chance to get married. So as a Muslim, there are a number of things that you should follow. One of them is engagement. So what is engagement? In other religions, engagement is camouflaging zina. So if a person is engaged to a woman, he can be engaged to her for 6-7 years. They go out, they live together, they sleep together, and everyone knows that they're engaged. This can go for years, this can go for a week or two, and then they broke their engagement. No, this is zina. This is not Islamic engagement. Al-khitbah, or the proper engagement, is to propose to the family you're interested in getting married. Now, I know how people think. Sheikh, if I don't know the girl, how can I propose to her? Knowing her through dating is haram. Knowing her through a couple of weeks of chit-chatting on the phone is haram. Because we have to protect both men and women from temptations of shaitan. So the proper way, the traditional way, is that your sister comes to you and says, listen, if you're interested in getting married, I have a friend, or I know a cousin, or there is this girl I saw that fits your qualifications and fits your desires. He says, I don't like tall women. I want her to be 4'8". I don't like women with blonde hair, or I want a woman with a blonde hair. I don't want her to be a PhD holder. A bachelor degree would do. I want this and I want that. She has to love the things that I love. I don't like her to be so open without wearing any hijab, mixing with her cousins. And at the same time, I don't want her to be this or that. So you give your specifications. Your sister, your mother, your aunt comes, one of your mahram says, we found a girl. And they tell you about her. You like what you hear. Now you want to ask. So you ask around and you get positive vibes. Alhamdulillah, you go and propose. Usually, in so many countries, they first dispatch the mother and the sister. So I would send my mother and sister to meet the girl and her parent and her mother. And they go and they meet and they see firsthand, they ask, they chit chat for an hour or two, maybe have a small meal. They get to know their first impression about the girl. They come back and tell me, Wallah, she said this, she said that, the way she laughs, she's so kind, she is so hospitable, generous, etc. And this adds to your liking. And they have no problem in you proposing. So you get your gear together and you go to meet her father. Your father meets you, sits with you, interviews you, asks around your workplace, your neighborhood, your masjid, and everything is positive. He designates a certain day, you go and you meet him again, but this time the girl comes into the interview and she sits with you and with her father for an hour or two. You look at her, whether she's wearing the hijab or not, but you take a good look at her face, at her body, at her height. Of course, she's not going to strip for you. She's not going to wear any makeup. And she looks at you and she sees how tall and handsome, ugly you are. And you guys exchange a dialogue and you talk and you get to know one another's personality from this first impression. After everything is done, you've asked her everything you wanted to ask. She asks you who are the sheikhs you are listening to so that she could identify your manhaj and knows your aqidah and knows how committed you are to Islam or not at all. Then you depart. In the evening, usually, the mother takes the okay from you. She calls her mother and she says, Wallah, alhamdulillah, we like what we had seen and we hope to hear something from you. And the girl thinks it over, prays istikhara, checks it with her parents, with her siblings, and if she's okay and comfortable with it, she gives the green light and the mother calls your mother, saying that alhamdulillah, we liked what we'd seen. You guys agree on an engagement date. An engagement takes place, segregated, men with the men, women with the women. She's not your wife yet, so she's a non-mahram to you. No communication, no mixing or seeing one another. This is called engagement. So when a proposal is accepted, number one, no other man may make a proposal. So now it is official. She is engaged to me, but she's not my mahram, I'm not her mahram. Which means that no one else can come and propose to this girl, knowing that I have proposed to her and they have accepted. This is totally prohibited. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited selling over one's transaction. Me and Ahmed, I sold him my pen and he bought it. Another person comes and says, why did you sell it for this much? I would have bought it for a much higher price. So now he's cutting in This is haram. Likewise, if he comes and proposes to the girl's family, knowing that I have already proposed and they've accepted my proposal. So this is totally haram. The Prophet says, let no man make a proposal when his brother has made one until the first one has either married the woman or abandoned his proposal. So you cannot make a move until I get married. Then this is an ended issue. Or they reject my proposal or I reject that. Number 2, it is forbidden to make a direct expression of one's desire to a widowed woman. So engagement, though it is not a contract, when a woman is a widow and she is in her waiting period of 4 months and 10 days, I cannot propose, Sheikh, her husband is dead. Yes, but she's mourning him for 4 months and 10 days, where she's not allowed to wear any makeup, wear anything glamorous in terms of dresses or putting perfume or beautifying herself in any means for these whole 4 months and 10 days. So to go and directly propose is totally prohibited. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, you will incur no sin if you give a hint of marriage offered to a widowed woman. So hinting is okay. Directly approaching a widow saying that I'm interested in getting married to you the moment you finish your iddah is totally prohibited. So what is meant by hinting? It says that, for example, I hope that Allah facilitates for me a marriage to a good woman. This is a hint. This is not a direct attempt to propose. So hinting to a widow is permissible. But if a woman was divorced, the first or the second divorce, and she is in her iddah period, which is marked by 3 monthly cycles. So I know that this woman had a fight with her husband, he divorced her for the first time, and he left the house. My mother goes to her and says, listen, when is your iddah period over from this divorce? She says, after a month and a half. So my mom says, okay, listen, if it's over and your husband does not reconcile with you, we'll propose to your parents for my son. This is totally prohibited, whether it's direct or a hint, because throughout the iddah period, she is still classified as a wife of that person who divorced her. And if any one of them dies, he will inherit, she will be inherited by the other one, because they are in the iddah period and they're still the lawful spouse. Number 3, we've mentioned this so many times, and we stated that such an engagement is not a marriage. So just because you're engaged does not mean that you can have an engagement party and you put the ring into your future wife's hand or touch her or mix with her. In some Muslim countries, unfortunately, and I've seen this myself, a woman is engaged to her fiance for a year. They go out together, they even go to the movies together. And Allah knows when she's 3-4 hours out of the house with her fiance, how chaste they will be. No one knows if they went to a hotel room or to the movies. And after a year, they break up. The woman is devastated because what had happened had happened. The man is just a dog, moves to another, you know what. So Islam protects the society, the community, the Muslims from any such filth, so that everything goes according to Allah's plan.